Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? Geoff Mosher, Adam Caplan. We promised we're delivering a Monday morning podcast as the Eagles get ready to take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the wild card round tonight in Tampa at Raymond James Stadium, 8 o'clock. A game that has just a lot of what's the word I'm looking at? Ramifications. And obviously, Adam, there's going to be injuries that we have updates on that are going to play a major role. Inclement weather can play a major role on this, and just the way the NFC playoffs just shaping up, it's going to be a wild ride for this game, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, just one thing, just one update. And the league's done this last year. So the kickoff has been moved to 8:15.
All right.
It has nothing to do with the game that was rescheduled earlier today, the Pittsburgh Buffalo. They've done this the last 2 years with evening games. I don't know why they do that, but it's at 8:15, not 8 o'clock. So so the game should be over, barring overtime, around 11:15, 11:20. That's when we'll have our post game show with you and I and Mr. Clay Harbor.
That's right. Can't wait for it. Look forward to it. It's going to be a great one. And of course, ITB pregame live will start at 5 o'clock, 5 to 7 p.m. Myself, Adam, Greg Cosell, and Jason Avant. And man, we have an excellent show lined up. I mean, really good breakdown stuff. Can't wait to get into the game on that show. And this show, we're just going to do, like we said, injuries, note on the weather, what that's going to be, and then just talk a little bit about the matchups. Obviously, we had a great week on Inside the Birds Q&A, Inside the Tape, Gun on One with Jeremiah Trotter. I just want to thank everybody because it was a great content. It was a great interview, and we got a lot of viewers on it. So I'm glad everybody got to catch up with the Axeman, who's had a really I don't know how you would describe his year, Adam. It's got to be a conflicting one to watch your son go from college football player to NFL. He's going to get drafted in the NFL. Obviously, Jeremiah lost his wife also to cancer. So, he even talked about how you're trying to be happy for one thing and adjust to another thing. But it was a great interview by Derek Gunn, and I hope everybody had a chance to check it out. He obviously talked about the Eagles, their linebacker situation too, their defense, and had some interesting things to say about it. And, as always, John DiFilippo was fantastic with us for our Patreon members, really breaking down how you prepare for a playoff game and some of the things that the Eagles should have done and expected this week. So we want to welcome our new member Stone to our Patreon channel. And that's Inside the Birds. I'm sorry, patreon.com/Inside the Birds for anybody who wants to be involved. You mentioned the kickoff time. It will be 8:15. Nothing to do with Pittsburgh Buffalo. That's just what it's going to be. Let's get into injuries, Adam. So the big one. All right. The big one we'll talk about. I also have a question that maybe you know the answer to.
Okay.
And maybe that answer will be done by the time this podcast, somebody's listening to it, if they're listening to it later in the morning. But the big injury, obviously, that we have to discuss is A.J. Brown. The knee injury that he suffered against the Giants is going to keep him out of this first round playoff game. And that is you talk about for a team that's already slumping, that's 1-5, that hasn't had too many answers, both offensively and defensively, against a team that is going to blitz you a lot. That's tough, man, to not have a guy like that.
I was talking Sunday night to a source with one of the Eagles' potential opponents if they win tonight, and this guy said, "Look, that he's their man beater, A.J. Brown. I mean, you're not having him. He's so hard to cover on those slants." Actually, the play that he got hurt with the right knee injury, it looked like an MCL based on where it was on the side of his knee. But he had testing, and it wasn't a major injury, thankfully. But when we did the show Friday, I was very pessimistic. People ask me why on Twitter, like, why was I like that? I don't get involved with answering stuff there, but I'll answer it here because I saw where it was, and I was like, this is going to be hard for him to do anything, be able to play, and he didn't even practice. He just rehabbed his knee. So if they win tonight, hey, maybe he could be ready the next week. We'll see, but he's got to practice first. He won't play without practicing. That ain't going to happen.
Yeah, so, and you're the source you spoke to made such a great point as it relates to tonight's matchup because we know that the Buccaneers are going to blitz the minute that Jalen Hurts sets foot on Dale Mabry Highway. Like he's going to see guys in his face coming off the bus. So that, and even though the Bucs lately last 2 years have blitzed with a lot of zone behind them instead of man, it doesn't matter. Once you see that much rushing, you need guys who can get open quickly and immediately, whether it's beating man or sitting or making that move in zone to sit down quickly. And you saw last week against the Giants that without AJ Brown, when he went out, and they were already without Devontae Smith, how difficult it was for receivers that they had, whether it was Julio Jones, Alameda Zaccheaus, even Goddard, to really beat good coverage. They did not beat sticky coverage well. There's nobody there with the same twitchiness. There's nobody who has the same play strength. There's nobody that has the same athleticism as AJ Brown. Now they'll get Devontae Smith back, and he will help you in that regard. You don't know how good the ankle is, right? But he's still not AJ Brown. You want both of those guys when you're going to face this kind of defense, and just to have one where they can maybe bracket him a little bit while they blitz and make everybody else beat him. That's going to be tough.
The Bucs stink against tight ends. Like Goddard's got to show up. He's got to show up tonight. I mean, that's the bottom line. He's got to have a big game. The coaches have to have a big game. We'll talk more about this in the matchup tonight. In our pregame show 5 to 7 But look, they got to be better. So offensively, okay. So AJ Brown's out. CD Brown, obviously, is on going on IR. Reed Blankenship did not practice at all. They're holding out hope that he can contribute. But Kevin Byard kind of broke the news. I guess I don't know if he wanted that, but kind of gave it out that Maddox is working in his place. What year was it that Maddox was at safety? I cannot remember.
His rookie year.
18. Okay.
Yep. He did it against Tennessee.
Yes.
In a game at Tennessee. And he actually had an interception right before halftime in that game from the safety position, which has always led to questions about will he be moved to safety, right? Because of that versatility, big guy, good tackler. And the Eagles have always struggled with depth at safety, even in their even last year. You know, I mean, you always wondered about number 3 and number 4. So it makes sense. You do wonder with all the injuries he's had, do they think safety would be lighter on him? I don't know if it would be, especially if you're a box safety or if you're the rotator guy on if you're the robber on single high, you're in a lot of traffic. So I don't know. I don't know what the future holds for him, but he's obviously played it before.
All right. So with Maddox, he's a smaller guy at 5'9", but he's compact and he can move. He's got much better split quickness and Blankenship. So if that holds true, and then obviously they would go with Roby as the slot corner. And that would be that. Guys who have no game status designation will all play. Jalen Hurts with the right middle finger. Dislocation. DeAndre Swift with the illness. Devontae Smith, as you mentioned. Britton Covey with the groin injury. So they all play. And obviously Darius Slay is back from the knee surgery. The only question with Slay is we don't know how many snaps he could handle. That will be interesting to see if he can play all, because he usually plays every snap.
Mm-hmm.
For the Bucs, this is interesting. And Todd Bowles is actually very good with injuries. So Baker Mayfield, he has the ribs and ankle injury. He didn't take all his first team reps because they wanted him to not overwork in practice. Now, Todd Bowles was asked if what would happen if they hit Mayfield. He said, quote, if he gets hit, that will probably affect his throw with the ribs. The ribs is the new injury. He hurt it in the first quarter of the last game against the Panthers. He has not looked at the last 2 weeks. You know what the Eagles did against him week 3? They got after him. So that's something to watch tonight. How do the Eagles get after him? I'll be interested to see that. Also with injuries, no game status designation. Chris Godwin was added during the week after he missed a day of practice, but he will play. Tristan Wirfs with illness, he will play. He took the snaps on Saturday. So the big one to watch, folks, tonight. Watch Mayfield. Does he hold the ball? Can they hit him? I know they've been like Patricia. If you thought that the side didn't blitz much, well, he was up percentage-wise over Gannon. If you think that they've been passive, well, guess what? Patricia's got to junk it and get after this guy, because this is a guy could be a sitting duck and hit, and the Eagles will know. They should be able to tell where he got hit in the ribs because they know approximately when it happened. You can get off coaching tape. So when coaches know and when a guy's got a rib injury, it's a quarterback. You should be coming after it, folks.
I'll believe it when I see it, Adam.
I
agree with you. I just don't know. I don't know that they'll take that route.
We're stunned. What the hell, man? Do something.
Anything. I agree. So the question that I had for you, but you may have already answered it. I mean, I expected that at some point Sidney Brown would go on injured reserve because he tore his ACL. Why that hasn't happened already, and he's occupied a roster. Well, he's been on the
Doesn't
53.
matter. You
Yeah, I
still
guess it doesn't matter, but again, you could have signed somebody if you want.
well yeah, because you and I have talked about that for a couple weeks now. Why have they not signed a veteran safety? Now they'll I'm almost certain they're going to put him on IR by today's deadline at 4 p.m. Eastern. Move Barner up maybe, or Josiah Scott, somebody like that. That would make the most sense to me. Either could play safety, but yeah, that I would agree with your assessment though in terms of signing a veteran safety. That's separate from putting him on IR now.
Right.
It's just something if they win, they're gonna have to take a look at. I don't know why they didn't work any out last week. That was kind of surprising. We'll look into that. But man, this is we got a lot of information we're gonna get to on our pregame show tonight. We'll cover a lot of subjects that cover a lot of ground. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I would say the best news injury wise for the Eagles throughout the week was that after a rough start with Jalen Hurts being limited, I believe on was it Wednesday or Thursday? It was I forget which day they started practice. It was Thursday. Right. Then he, as the week went on, he was able to practice fully, and Nick Sirianni seemed to indicate that he looked good.
Yeah, Friday, from what we heard, was pretty good. So we'll see what how that manifests tonight. Now, here's the question: does he wear a glove or not? Because it's going to rain, most likely. We'll update the forecast during the show at between 5 and 7 p.m. So we'll get a better idea, because you know how that rain can be. Sometimes you never know in Tampa. It can come in and it can leave very quickly.
Yeah.
But is it going to be humid? Who knows? But that's something we'll take a look at.
Wasn't lightning at one point in the I thought I saw a potential for
Yes.
lightning at one point in the forecast.
It was, and then it left. But again, who the heck knows with these? I only look at hour by hour. I don't give a crap what happens in the game. It's irrelevant. It's only what happens in game.
Right.
And that's the way you do it. And I use the weather.com app. It is absolute money. I've used it for years. It's worth getting the premium one, where it is so up to date and it's so accurate. It gives you for fantasy, or if you gamble, or if you're just trying to figure out what's going to happen with the Eagles, it's pretty accurate. So we'll take a look at that later tonight. But it's a fascinating matchup because Eagles smoked them in week 3. The Eagles were healthier of the two teams, and all those guys were back who missed that game or who were injured. Like Jamel Dean, one of their starting corners, got hurt in that game in his time. He's back. Carlton Davis is back from his concussion. Cansey's back from his calf injury. Vita Vea's back from his injury. So they're healthy, folks. The Eagles are not, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, this is going to be rough. It's going to be very, very interesting from a matchup standpoint. Yeah, I think you hit on something that people probably haven't thought about, but Darius Slay expected to play, but having not played in several weeks, about a month, basically. Now you wonder, he's going to go up against Mike Evans. Mike Evans is a tough, great wide. What's 9 straight seasons of 1,000 yards, of at least 1,000 yards? Amazing. I mean, the guy's a first ballot Hall of Famer, just had 13 touchdowns. He's been unbelievable. You wonder, A, Slay's conditioning, and B, if he's like, are you just 100% when you're out there, when your conditioning is not there? Like, can you keep up with guys like Godwin and Mike Evans and even a Trey Palmer who has a lot of speed?
Yeah, when they play man, I would think that Slay would travel. The Eagles are not a big man team; they're about 30% man. But when they play man, you would think he would be on Evans. And then here's the thing now: if Roby's playing slot, Godwin's he's in a vertical slot, so that'll be interesting to see how they use him here. And I know the Eagles' run defense has been a little leaky lately. I don't worry about Sean White. He's a good player though, versatile. It's just the passing game, and they've got to get heat on Mayfield. That we'll be covering that in tonight's pregame show, I'm sure.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And man, if we're saying after the game and the postgame show that Rachaad White had like 150 yards and 2 touchdowns, holy cow, then we're going to be talking about a whole lot more than just a loss of a game. So we'll get into that, see what happens. All right. I'm going to ask you one more question. First, I want to remind everybody that it's been very frustrating. Losing sucks, but what also sucks? Finding good tickets online. That's what you need. That's why you need Game Time. It's the fast, easy way to buy tickets for sporting events, concerts, and theater shows near you. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. And right now on the Game Time app, you're just 2 taps away from tickets to seeing any of the local sports teams, any comedy shows, any concerts, anything you want. The best part is Game Time offers event cancellation protection and job loss protection. Game Time's the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. They got the all-in prices that show you the total upfront, and you get to see the view from your seat. All right, you know exactly what to expect at checkout. Game Time is obsessed with helping you save money. They've got the zone deals that let you pick the section while Game Time picks the seats for the best savings. And then there's the Game Time guarantee, where if you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time credits you 100%, 110% of the difference. So download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code BIRDS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use the redeem code BIRDS, BIRDS, for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, on our podcast, Adam, that dropped Friday morning where we previewed the game and all the matchups, both of us picked the Buccaneers. There was some obvious injury stuff that we were still waiting to find out, and now we know that AJ Brown won't play. Are you changing your pick or your score of any at all?
No, I had it without Brown. I was expecting Brown not to play. That's
right. Just making sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm going to stick with the Bucks too, but I do wonder. I don't know, man. Sometimes I think the Eagles really are. I know Jason Avant talked about this, how you don't just flip it on, but I have seen some teams like that 2008 team, right, that beat the Cowboys 44-6. We saw that coming. Like, I have seen them kind of just all of a sudden snap out of it in a single game, or when the stakes get high. But I'm with you right now. I think it's really tough to give this team benefit of the doubt, and that was before we were sure that AJ Brown was going to be out. So yeah, I'm thinking Bucks too, and I guess we'll just see what happens.
Great. It's a fascinating game, and let's not forget the Eagles are a pretty good road team overall since Sirianni became a coach. Not as good lately, we know that, but at times you got to get away after all the negativity, and we'll see what happens if they could rally together. And this is the big one. This is a big one with all the rumors swirling and all that stuff. They got to put this to the side and play a game tonight.
100%. And by the way, as we close this out, a really interesting nugget about this game is that this is going to be the fourth time that Todd Bowles versus Jalen Hurts matchup is going to ensue. For a non-division team in basically 3 years, that's pretty amazing. 4 times. You have the 2 times from 2 years ago when they played Tom Brady and lost on that Thursday night game, then lost in that infamous, first round game. And then there was this year where they won the Monday night game, and now they're going back for another Monday night game. That's a pretty interesting stat, and I don't know who that favors or if it favors anybody, but I just find that to be pretty incredible for a non-division team.
It is. Looking forward to seeing how it manifests today and see what the confidence level is. Because again, before we get out of here, week 3 was a beatdown. They crushed Dallas. Tampa. How about the Cowboys? Getting smoked.
Oh boy.
But getting back to this one, I'll be interested to see what the approach is, because they ran the ball so well. We know the Eagles don't want to really do that, but every once in a while they'll stick with it if they get off to a good start, and that obviously could help not put a lot of pressure on Hurts, who's been obviously wildly consistent this season. So we'll see what happens.
We will see what happens. Great stuff. Look forward to halftime, right? We're doing the halftime thing for our Patreon members. I forgot to mention that. Yes.
Patreon. So tonight, now it's only going to be about 15 minutes. Folks, Geoff will post a link on our Patreon page, Inside the Birds / patreon.com/Inside the Birds, and we'll have it up there nice and early. And for halftime, let's see, the game is the kickoff's 8:15, probably around 9:30-ish. But we'll have the link up, and we'll let you in if you're a Patreon member. As soon as we'll probably let you in like 10 seconds left or something until halftime. But we'll see what happens. Let's hope the game's competitive, because if it is, it could be fun.
Definitely. All right, that's going to do it for this special edition of Inside the Birds on Monday morning, the leading podcast in Eagles intel. As always, we thank you for following us flying with us, I should say, inside the birds.